There's a session that we're going to talk something very important. Lot of us have a lot of confusion about what's organic and what's natural. So and a lot of questions that we have, we are going to have them addressed with our renowned speaker. I'm going to add. Yeah, let's.
I think he's online. Just now I've added him. Hello, hi Manisha. Hello, Wild Rose. Hello, everyone. Yes,
Hi.
Sunny is here. Hello, Sunny. Hi. Let me introduce Sunny to everyone here. He is our head of marketing team, and he's been pioneering, and he's completed his MSc in environmental sciences and is an extremely passionate environmentalist, born environmentalist, I would say. So it's going to be a wonderful time with you for the next 30 to 40 minutes. We are going to address a lot of questions which even I have, and a lot of us who are in the field of environment and sustainability, we are going to address them. So the first question that I would like to ask you is, what exactly organics is? What is organics? How do you understand what an organic thing is?
Hi, my name is Sunny, and thank you so much for the wonderful, introduction, Aparna. You look really nice.
Thank you.
Quarantine hasn't affected you at all.
Yeah, no sun. No sun. So yes,
Yeah, the sun is shining on me.
less people.
Yeah, exactly. The quarantine has really impacted a lot of us, and it was right time to think and talk about what really is sustainable and what really is organic. What really are the myth and probably the marketing gimmicks of calling something as something and really is nobody knows the answer for it. So you asked me a very smart question that what is really organic. So organic per se, through organic chemistry definition, anything which has carbon is called as organic.
Sabri,
And
you and
from
I
the
are also
perspective
organic.
of yes, we are absolutely organic. So,
Lovely.
from the perspective of organic from the consumer market, like the eateries, is the food or a it's actually termed to only things which are produced or involving production without the use of chemical fertilizer, pesticides, and other artificial chemicals, and is also related to having in relation or is derived completely from organic matter or living matter. So if you are thinking about what is organic and is it really chemical free, is it really pesticide free, or is it really artificial chemical free, then that is called as organic. But otherwise it will be just a whitewash to call something as organic and really is maybe just natural. So natural is actually no standard. There is nothing that can be called as that can be certified as natural, because to give you an example, if you are growing a banana in an area which had a very high sulfur content, say Hawaii or in Japan, the banana's nutritive value will completely differ from a banana which is grown in maybe Middle East or in some parts of India. Now this transition of nutritive material will not be so big that you will see that by eating one banana from Hawaii you feel supermanish, and by eating a banana in India you don't feel supermanish. It's not like that. We are talking about in parts per million or parts per billion. It's where it affects. But yes, continuous consumption of it really builds up a long-term benefit or positives in your body.
Okay, lovely. So, which brings me to the next question. Who actually certifies them? Like, if I were to understand, as you said, that some thappa that somebody puts. So, who are these governing bodies who say, and how they inspect whether this is organic or not organic, and how do they justify that yes, it is organic?
Okay, so organic as a word has been very popular since a very long time, and it was actually USDA, which is the biggest organization to certify and call something or testify that the claim has been made, and they give their stamp, which is called as an eco stamp. which was first
Okay.
developed by US FDA, and it is still remains the most internationally acclaimed standard. However, the bad part, or I would say the non-synergetic part of it, is anything which is made in India, if they do not go for certification of USDA, they cannot claim themselves as something which is tagged as organic. So India, in way back in 2004, if I'm not wrong, or even before that, started the work of developing the standards, because one thing we need to identify and understand is organics are standards-based substances. They are not natural. They are not something which are non-governed. Organic market is completely governed, and there is absolute understanding as to what is called as organic, what terms as natural, what terms as what and what. So India started this by having a program which was then it was just a part of a particular ministry, which was Department of Commerce of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. They developed this standard. They developed this protocol called as National Program on Organic Production.
Okay.
So this was started, and simultaneously there was another program or a standard which was started, or a protocol which was started, called as PGS India. It stands for Participatory Guarantee System, and it is governed by Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. So now these two are combined together, and they are the main organizing bodies or organizations which help you to understand what is organic as far as India as a subcontinent is concerned. They form something called as Jaivik Bharat, which is Indian standard of organic. And this is, so Jaivik literally means organic or living, and Bharat is India. So it serves as a dual identity, and it gives, consumer from across the globe to know that, this is Jaivik, it means it is organic, and it's certified in India. So certification in India literally means that it is made in India. Maybe its production was in India or its farming was in India. So FSSAI governs this particular standard, and there are two things that I wanted to run by. One of the biggest facts is India has one state which is called as a fully organic state. Do you know which state is that?
No, I was hearing something about Uttarakhand, which was trying to popularize organic. But I'm not sure if state is totally organic. That'll be interesting to know. Anybody from the viewers can guess?
Audience, yes. We have 10 viewers right now. Probably one will get the name of it.
Hello everyone. Thanks for joining in. So can you all guess which is the state which is fully organic? I think that's something you have to answer now. Bounced us. We are bold.
Yeah, it's Sikkim, the state of the northeast, and it fully transitioned from being chemical fertilizer using or an insecticide using state to a fully organic state, and it is. Oh, Manisha has replied. Thank you, Manisha. You are just in time. Yes, and second big fact is, do you know? In terms of producers, how many organic producers country has? What is the ranking of India in that? How many organic producers do we have?
Not sure. Everybody seems to be moving to the shortcuts lately, and chemical fertilizers tend to be giving all overnight results. So I'm not very sure which is our ranking.
No. What I'm asking is, in terms of certification, in terms of you being certified as an organic, which country stands the highest number of organic certified farms or producers in the world?
I'm sorry.
India.
India? Oh my God! That's something to be proud of. It's amazing.
Yes, it truly is. It really is.
Wonderful.
But do you know on what rank does India stand in organic agriculture? Area under agriculture, area which is under organic agriculture. No idea?
No idea.
Ninth rank. We are ninth in the world.
Wonderful.
With 5.71 million hectares of land which is under organic production. and
Wow.
organic certification. So I'm not talking about the area which is transiting. So I'll just walk you through what is the process. So you go to the either of the bodies, be it NPOS, which is National Standards for Organic Production, or PGS India, and they have their own many vendors. Like SGS is one of the vendors, Bureau Veritas is another vendor. They help you walk through the whole process. They become an advisor for you, and you basically go to them and tell them, "Boss, I have this particular product and I want to go for organic certification. Say I am a chiku farmer." Right. So it's very easy. You have to first give a land document saying that the land belongs to you. That is number one. Second is you have to go through a period of 2 to 3 years of observation in which your soil is continuously tested, and you have to stop using any and every kind of chemical fertilizer or chemical pesticides that you are using, and you have to maintain records of it. So this will bring me, this is the exact point why organics are very costly compared to the other natural stuff. One is there is a long time investment that the producer has made to make it available or being certified as organic. And second is it is quite difficult to maintain this particular standard because you have to continuously make sure that you are performing at that level. And that level performance is justified only by undergoing a lot of tests, which will prove you to be up to that mark, and continuously you have to go. So there is something called as batch certification, and there is something called as a bulk certification. So if I am a chiku farmer and I'm making chikus, so during the season I have to certify one of the batches because chikus will not be grown at a single time, right? They will be growing one day, because you are a farmer too. You also know that anything and everything is not ripen if it is fruit on a single day.
Correct.
So it will go in a batch format, and every batch I have to send out for testing at the lab.
Oh my God. Okay.
So if the batch is say 500 tons, probably I can go for 500 tons sample and have an X price. But if the batch size is just 1 ton, I have to still go through testing, which will probably have its cost impact on than just 1 ton of produce. And that's where the costing factor further blows up, because not all as I told you that India has the highest number of organic certified farmers or organic producers. It means that their land ratio on the land surface will be very small. So everyone will be producing very small quantities, and since the certification of small quantities will be very costly for that particular, which ultimately will trickle down to the actual subject matter, which is the organic part of it.
Okay, great. Great, that was very interesting.
Sorry to cut you. Do you know one thing, that it is really important to maintain your organic standards, and there are certain exceptions which are given to you to control pests and to control fertilizers or something like that. So you can never use nitrogen-based fertilizer ever. You cannot. No use of urea, no use of artificial nitrogen. That's
urea.
What I mean. Artificial urea or any kind of nitrates and nitrites you cannot use. You can go for organic compost. You can go for compost. You can go for human waste, excreted waste converted into compost, provided that it does not have any kind of urine or fecal traces. And one thing which really surprised me was vinegar, which we generally use for disinfection, is not allowed under organic certification. You cannot use vinegar of mild acid onto the food because they are carbon based.
Technically it's acetic acid.
It's acetic acid, and on top of it has a very high long life of residual life. So because it is very weak acid, so probably this is the reason to not allow it. And do you know glycerine is something that is nutritive for the soil?
Oh, okay. Glycerine.
Even I was surprised. Glycerine, glycerol, both are very, very, found to be very nutritive for the soil.
Oh.
No addition of silica, but you can add multani mitti, just like you apply on your face.
you can add it to your soil as well to increase the
Okay.
porosity of it
Porosity.
and increase its water holding capacity.
Very interesting. Very interesting insight.
So if you go to NSDS, NPOP and read about NSOP, which is National Standards on Organic Production, you will be amazed at the thoroughness of the standard with which these protocols have been devised, and all the things which are allowed and not allowed. So one question for all the viewers as well as for you. Neem oil that we generally use as an insecticide, is it allowed on organic farms?
Well, I'm a big fan of neem, and in fact, if you go to my native, you'll mainly find neem trees all over. In fact, every year they prop up on their own, and some of them, out of the 100 that they prop up on their own, 1 or 2 land up becoming big. So yes, I've lived my childhood amongst the neem trees, and we've used neem a lot. And I'm a big fan of neem oil. So I think it should be allowed, neem oil. Now don't say no, it's not allowed.
Okay. Okay. Anyone from audience who thinks that Aparna is right, or there is some deviation?
Anybody wants to take a chance here? I think, come on, reply, whatever. It's okay if it is wrong
Nobody
answer.
wants to
Sunny's
support
not
either
gonna
of
beat
you.
him. Yeah, Sunny's not gonna beat us. He's online.
So, according to the standards, Indian standards, neem oil is not allowed as an insecticide, and it is a completely banned item. You cannot use it. And, and there is
that hurts.
So there is one question. Okay, Kunal, a friend of mine is saying, isn't glycerin an inorganically produced and organic compound? Yes, Kunal, it is produced in batches and in lab, conditions. But glycerin acts as a very good carrier for a lot of things which are allowed under organic standards. So probably that is the reason why glycerin would have been allowed to go back into the field or be applied onto the field. I'm not sure why glycerin should be allowed, because one, it is it's a chemically synthesized, mostly chemically synthesized compound, and second is it's based out of carbon. So if it is allowed to stay on the field, how much time will it take for it to disintegrate, and everything needs to be accounted for. One more thing.
Mainly because of its oleous nature?
Yeah, one more thing is, sorry, what did you say?
I'm saying, is it not allowed because of its oleous nature? It'll be difficult to break down.
Which one? Neem oil?
Neem oil, yes.
Okay. So I think there are two versions of I have not yet finished the study of it. So two things which I have come across is, one, neem oil is an antibacterial substance, antifungal, antibacterial, and everything anti. So it will affect so it will affect the microflora of the soil, which is natural. So in nature, it is allowed to be a predator. In nature, it is completely allowed to be a phagocyte, and it is completely allowed you to have a system or a energy living where you end someone's existence. So
yeah, I think Monisha also says that organic supports prey predator. Monisha says here, organic supports prey predator.
Exactly, yes. Which is what it is. And second is probably, as you mentioned, that oiliest nature of it is something which is not allowing, because oil if I want to spray oil, I need to have carrier system. Right, and the moment I use a carrier system, it means that I am available. I am making it more bioavailable to the field, and anything which is more made bioavailable is not allowed.
Okay.
Like you can add compost to your soil, compost to your field, but you cannot add any kind of diluent to make sure that the compost is quickly absorbed into the root system. You cannot use that. It has to be everything natural. Everything should go as per the nature, and burning of crop is allowed.
Oh my God, don't propagate that. Okay.
So this is basically allowed because one, it returns a lot of carbon back into the soil in its most natural form. That is one. And second, it is the easiest way to take care of your pests. But yes, if you
true.
are
That's
burning
what
your
my
crop,
family
if
keeps
you are
saying.
burning
Yeah,
your
that's
field,
right. That's what my village people advocate. Like whenever I've asked them, "Ki, why you're burning it? You can just leave it on the field. There is anyway summers 2 months. You're not going to be growing anything. You need to grow it in June. Just flood your fields. It will get composted in 2 months. All your hay and stuff." And they said that it's important because we want to kill the bugs in there, which will be harmful for our paddy crops. So yeah,
right.
that's an interesting insight.
And second thing is, if you are burning your field, you have to continuously inform the authorities. If there are any steps that you are taking which are not supposed to be taken as per the standard. So government does allow you to take a little bit of deviation, but make sure that you are keeping your advisor in the panel and you are continuously talking to them. So that way you do not lead example where you are out of the system and nobody sees a check on you. Again, to remind you that organics is a highly controlled stuff. It does not just directly come to you. It has to be directed and has to be governed.
Okay, interesting. Now that brings me to next question. Is it really sensible to buy organics, and how sustainable? What is the sustainability quotient of this? All the environmentalists are like, buy organic, go for organic. So how sustainable it is?
Okay, just a minute. I need to see. Manisha is asking what about cow dung? So cow dung is a natural source, Manisha, and it is completely allowed under the organic standards to use it. There are still a lot of checks as to what is the fitness of it and everything. So anything which goes onto the field has to also be checked. Because one thing that I need to remind you is you have waited 3 years to make sure that your soil is free of any pesticides or natural pesticides or fertilizer. So you need to be very sure, even if you're adding a gram of water or a gram of solid onto the soil, you need to be very sure whether how it is coming and what are its components. So you need to really check what the cow dung is having actually, and then go ahead and add it to your soil. Otherwise, you are basically contaminating the soil once again, which the parameters will suggest in the very nice lab report saying that okay, there is a little bit of gatla in this standard, and you are not following it, so you will contamination.
Okay.
Your question about how
organic,
sustainable or
yes, so you have to answer
go
this.
Organic, okay?
Yes, you have to answer this, how sustainable it is.
Okay. Can I answer it in a two-way session, in the sense that one is buying local is really good organic practice in its own sense, because you are not really relying on something which is outside. That is number one. And second is organic always sustainable? No, it is not always sustainable, because in the current regime where everyone wants to make money, wants to make good production and wants to acquire the whole market, there are certain times, not only just certain, but a lot of times where inhuman practices are done. It is, you conquer someone's land, you acquire those land and you start making things which are not local to them, not even wanted by them, and you start exporting those things back into the system. So yes, that product will be organic, that product will be very pure, very good for health and very good, directly from the earth. But the ethic quotient of it, which is where the organic standards are really not looking at, because they're not looking at ethical, there is no check on ethos. So I would say that if given a choice to use locally produced, not certified, farm fresh, mango compared to a certified mango from a neighboring district or a neighboring state, I would probably go for the, the mango which is right in front of me, and I know I can check that whether fertilizers were used or not used or whatever it is. So there is no denial that this particular mango is certified organic. But to promote the local government and local, produce, I would still go ahead and choose something which is locally available for me.
Okay,
So I
okay,
would
very,
say that,
very
at the end
interesting.
of the day, sustainability is nothing but sustainability can be extreme. Like, you can be really go on the extreme angle of it and, really talk about just sustainability, but you fail to see what is more viable. So sustainability
Correct.
is not always viable from both the ends. Sustainability can be viable at a production level or at the consumer level. But to see production as well as consumer level, both need to come on board and say that, okay, this is the most sustainable thing.
Okay, great. So we have a question from, that was a very interesting realization that you brought out. It was very important to know when to choose and all. So now there's a question that what insecticides can be used in organic? What is allowed?
So there is a list of what is allowed, and if possible, I will try and load that sheet onto my screen and probably share the link to that sheet as well. In the meanwhile, just continue with the next question by the time I draw out that.
Yeah. So the next question was, what's the role in the global context, like the role of organics in global context of organics?
Okay. So globally, I would say that organics are playing a very big role, and it is really needed that we really understand what is the value of Mother Nature and how to preserve it and how to make sure that we are just drawing enough for us. So this is also very important that no GMOs are allowed to be grown on organic land. So anything which is genetically modified organisms, even though they are good yielding, they are producing good yields and they are really, really pest resistant and everything, as per organic standards, they are not allowed. So
Right.
it brings to the possible failure of organic standard, because organic is not so if you think Earth, we have already surpassed whatever the highest population that we could ever achieve, and we are already overburdening ourselves.
And we are growing.
On top of it, and we are growing, yes, and we are ever growing, ever flourishing, and on top of it, our feed, our diet are constantly changing. So
True.
the Mother Earth will be able to provide only so much, and we need to have patience to let this grow continuously. But what we want is, because there are a lot of mouths to be fed, there is a lot of hunger in the world. Of course, there is a lot of wastage associated with it too. But because to cover this and make sure that it is just this much, so that the maximum portion of the population can take a chunk out of it, we increase our production, and that is not allowed under organics, because
Okay.
the moment you have things going in what do you call growing inorganically, not inorganically, but by using artificial means of maybe the seed cultivation or the germination pattern, or providing some good bacteria or something like that, it will affect the production value. And anything
Okay.
which affects the production value, which is in your control, which is in human control, is not allowed in the organics.
Okay. Okay. Great. So Monisha concludes saying local is sustainable. Yes, indeed. And she's asking if you can share some of the
Yes.
organic products you have. And yeah, very important. Conscious consumption is the key. You have to be very conscious about what you
Yes,
are
yes,
consuming.
absolutely.
Yeah, very, very interesting. If you have some of the
Just a
products
minute, I'm
organic,
just-
then you can share.
I don't have organic products, sorry, apart from this t-shirt. So this t-shirt is, organically 100% cotton, and
Okay.
100% organic cotton, and on top of it, the color is, very, dull per se. It's not very, very flashy and everything, because it has been sustainably, made in a way that after every washing, if there is even any color which is getting leached out, it should get biodisintegrate.
Okay. That's
And to
very
make
interesting.
that happen, you have to make sure that your production and your lines and everything is absolutely in what is required. And last but not the least to say, this is a fair trade cotton in the sense that there is a standard which we need to look further than just using cotton, because most of the times cotton is not really ethically produced, not really.
Okay.
There are lots of farmers which are being underpaid. There are lots of traders which are underpaid, and there are lots and lots of wholesalers which are also not treated well in the whole hierarchy, from cotton seed to cotton produce to cotton yarn manufacture to the final produce. So the whole circle needs to be, completely in sync, and everyone should be able to, get the best for what they are providing, because it's best. And to make that happen, the government the whole international body has come up with something called as GOTS, GOTS standard.
Okay.
And that's a fair traded cotton standard.
Very interesting.
This is something which is ethically and organically sustainable product that you have. So this is probably a little bit expensive compared to the cotton items that are available. But as you can see, if you use it nicely, it doesn't show any kind of wear and tear or something like that. And mind you, this is 2017 made, so it's not even this year made or something like that. And
that's
this
about
is
3 years.
Japanese T-shirt. Yeah.
Ah, lovely, amazing. So, why does organic food taste better? But before that, I take this question. Dyes are within permissible limits in organic clothes. Dyes are within permissible limits. So there are certain limits, I think, in which you can use dyes in these organic clothes. So that's also something very interesting. So not very bhadak colors we can wear. Soothing for us, soothing for others. Okay, that's very interesting. So, that brings to another one question. Monisha has asked, why does organic food taste better?
Okay. So this is a very popular myth that a lot of people have, is organic food tastes better, or organic food is something which is nutritionally more available or something like that. So there are two studies which are done. One is an antioxidant study done on the food which were organically produced, and another study was done on the group of people. So when the organic study was done to identify what is the content and what is the antioxidant content of the food naturally is, they found that actually speaking, organic food have a very high, up to 69% more antioxidant content. And this is probably due to least utilization of fertilizer, which trays back and eats up antioxidants into their component while they are growing up. So if you don't use pesticides, you will have a greater antioxidants, which is proven, which is a fact. But now let me tell you this thing. If you they did this small study where a group of people who are environmentally enthusiastic and organic creatures and organic consumers, they were put into one room and they were asked to taste few things and tell them whether they are tasting organic or not, because there was a myth that organic tastes much better, and you will be surprised, 90% of them couldn't guess which was organic and which was not organic just by the taste of it. Now this is exactly the point where probably the question asking the person who is asking this question is probably basing themselves. If you see something which is with your eyes while growing it, or while going ahead or purchasing it, or if you are anywhere in the transaction before it is getting supplied, then there is a very high chance that you have a very high affinity towards it.
Okay,
but
it's like a baby to you.
Yes, it's like a baby to you. And second, yes, and this is really important, because for you associate yourself with that food or that article. You will always belongingness to that particular instrument or that particular object or that particular food item. I'm hearing my own voice. I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, there is a little bit error. You need to fix it.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay.
Very
Great.
good. I'm
Great.
not hearing my echo also. So let me carry on. When you have a good sense of belongingness to a particular item, you tend to feel that this is more tasting good, or somewhere your consciousness is affected by it. But yes,
Okay.
there have been few people who have. There have been actually evidences also, which are very very small group based evidences, and that's why probably organics cannot be certified, or cannot be acclaimed, because one, they are not globally available. There are still countries where organic food is not really available, or a certification is not there. Second, organic production itself is so limited that you cannot have it distributed evenly across, even in the local community, because you are
Okay.
controlling the whole production and everything. And
Correct,
third thing
correct.
is, because organic knowledge is not something which is completely understood by a lot of people. So a lot of times technical hindrance of what to do and how to do and where to do is the biggest challenge that the person has to follow. And that is probably the reason why we do not have so much of evidence-based data to
Okay.
really say that this is good or that is good. Coming to the point where you had asked me what all things I am using, so this is one thing that I am using since a very long time now. It's a bamboo toothbrush.
Wow.
I think you can see it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
we can see it.
you see one of the wick is missing.
Yeah, it's like an 8-year-old kid missing its one tooth.
What a nice analogy. So basically, this
So I have
is
this
actually
live example in
curiosity
my
of
house.
me.
Okay.
So I'm so sorry. This was actually my curiosity, because there was a lot of talk, and when this was even sold to me, I paid around 200 or 240 rupees or something like that for this toothbrush, and I was told that this is 100% organic, this is 100% natural and everything. So I being the curious myself, I pluck this one part of the brushes which are there and burnt them, and I could smell a plastic smell. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, this smell can be plastic or cannot be plastic, because things can smell like onion and they are not really onion. So I was still, because I had paid, I could not accept that this can be me getting wrong marketing gimmick or falling for marketing gimmick. I went online to check, and I was surprised that in the world there is no replacement of the bristles still
Roughly
available,
nylon. Okay.
which are not nylon 6. And the nylon 6 production is only and only done by the bristle-based DuPont, which is the company which has actually engineered, or rather created, or it was the biggest creator of plastic since a very long time. So,
Okay.
though I feel very proud that this whole body is a bamboo-based body, and probably this is also made locally. I'm not sure, because this brand is not really very confident on the stuff. So this can be made in China, or this can be made in Vietnam or somewhere. But this is bamboo, and it's only this bristles which are something which are still plastic, and I'm still debating with my own self whether plastic is evil or good. And that brings me to the next level of the question. So this is loofah,
Okay.
and
Wow.
I came across this 1 year back, almost 1.5 year back. So right now you see the size of it is pretty big. Now if I just squeeze it, it actually becomes this tiny.
Okay.
And
Uh-huh.
the best part is, this is the best loofah that I have ever scrubbed my body with. So guys, whoever is listening to me, please scrub yourself. You really need
Yes,
it.
loofah.
Trust me, your skin will feel like no one's business, and
Lovely.
you will automatically feel good, because the dead skin which needs to go out, which should go out on its own, sometimes requires a mechanical abrasion, but this provides exactly the same thing which is you require. All you need to do is just dip it in water 5 minutes before you take a bath, so that it becomes a little softer.
Soft.
Now I don't find this is very corrosive. and I can actually go ahead and brush myself just like that, and I don't see any white marks or something like that on my skin.
Abrasion. Okay. Very interesting.
Apart from that, I have been using my own made soap since a very long time. So this one is
Wow.
made with neem oil, and this one is 100% olive oil.
Oh, lovely.
So in the sense of speaking soap, this will be called as a very very mild soap. Because it
Okay.
doesn't lather so much, and olive oil is supposed to be very skin friendly, and lot of good things about olive oil.
Yes, yes.
This one is our desi soap, where this lathers a lot because it has castor oil, and it has coconut oil, and sunflower and safflower oil along with neem oil. So it smells good to me, but to a lot of people in my friend circle, it smells. It smells. It does
Okay.
not smell good.
So smell is a
so again,
perspective, actually. Smell is a perspective.
Exactly. That's my point. That you can live a very long and very strong life with probably living between carcinogens as well, and not get affected by it. And you can probably die just because you came in contact with one carcinogen once in your life. So all it matters is, one, how is your interaction with the substances, and second is, how consciously do you feel that you need to be a little bit more mindful or something about it. So when I use a toothbrush in the morning, I feel it's a gentle reminder to myself to choose consciously and not
Very
fall for the
beautiful.
gimmick.
Wonderful.
That there can always be a tip of the iceberg, which is really not the iceberg altogether, and it's something which is very wrong. When I use this soap, I realize that I am causing pollution. So when the soap solutions enter into the water body, if your soap is not free of phosphates and is not free of sulfates, it will contaminate the water, and it will contaminate the water to a very very good extent.
Very nice.
When I use a soap which is made by my own self, I don't know what the oil, the kind of condition in which the oil is made. I know the condition in which the oil is supplied to me. I know the condition in which the oil is milled at. But I don't know how the coconut was grown, or how the sunflower seed was grown, or whatever it is. So at the end of the day, when I use this particular soap, I have 10% less of worries in me. One, I'm not used any kind of organic solvent. I have not used any kind of fragrance. I have not used any kind of other chemical which are not required for soap. So soap is nothing but oil and lye and water. That's it. You
Okay.
don't require
Okay.
anything else into it.
Yeah. And we
I
can
have
place
not used
orders.
anything else apart from it.
We can place orders with you. Yes, so anybody
Yes,
wants to
yes,
place
yes.
orders for soap, please
I
DM
do that.
Sunny.
I do that. But yes, but one more thing. I am not authorized seller of soaps. According to Indian standards, soaps do fall under cosmetic law, and under that law, I need to have a license to make soap because they are coming in contact with human body. So I need to test myself, and I need to get on the certification and everything. But yes, I am happy to share that right now I'm thinking of starting a soap business of my own with.
No, but I can advocate. I can advocate. I've used
can.
your
Yes,
soap
you can.
and I've personally loved it. So yes, go ahead.
Exactly.
So we have two
Go ahead and
questions
buy
about
it.
yes, try it for yourself. We have two questions related to bamboo products. One is a very common, that is, does it catch fungus? And the second is life of this toothbrush. How long will this?
Okay. I'm happy. Whoever asked this question, I love you. So this is bamboo, okay? So bamboo is considered to be antifungal and antimicrobial in its own sense. But what happens is, if you see on this part, is the picture hazy or is it clear?
It's clear. It's clear, but we can't read what's
Okay,
written
just
in case there's something written on it.
Okay. Yeah, there is something which is written on it, but let me just clear it. Probably now you will be able to see it much better.
We can't
Can you
read.
it says
No.
bamboo.
Okay, no, we can't read. I can't read.
Okay. No problem. But can you see the color difference?
Yes, I can
on
see.
this
I can
part?
see. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So this was my learning lesson, that a bamboo product, even though it is claimed to be antibacterial, antifungal, and anti, It is really not, because the way you use it is something which is very important. So we usually wash this part of the brush and we
Yes.
brush our teeth. We will wash this part again and keep it. But do you remember your finger, your hands also are wet. So when you are touching this, you are wetting this surface, and wetness invites biological systems to go and eat, go and grow. So you can see a little bit of green part over here. That was my mistake, and I was not washing, I was not wiping it after the use. So now I have a routine where I will be brushing my teeth. I will be wiping this with a cloth first, the whole thing, after brushing the teeth, and keeping this in the sunlight. If I am brushing during the morning time, then in the sunlight, or if not, I will be air drying it into the open air for as long as possible, and then putting it back into the cupboard.
Okay.
So
Very
this is the
interesting.
personal care that you have to take. And second thing is, this toothbrush is okay. So I bought this toothbrush in 2017, and you
3
can
years.
see
Lovely.
there is no fraying, because I'm brushing my teeth and I'm not brushing
Fighting.
like a maniac. That it will completely fray. And second thing is, a lot of people have asked me whether you should be really changing your toothbrush every 6 months or not. So I did a little bit of research on it, and I found out that actually it is not needed. One, to change your toothbrush every 6 months. It only is that if the ends of it, if this becomes very sharp or is very blunt and it's not serving its purpose, and you don't feel clean, then you go ahead and change it. Then there is no problem with that. But otherwise, I would say that as long as you are brushing your teeth and nothing else with it, this brush should last you for minimum 2 or maybe 3 years.
Mine is
I
about
am
6 to 8
motivated to change
months.
this brush. Sorry.
Mine is about 6 to 8 months, and it's like as new as this thing. I was a little bit concerned, so I had this habit of boiling my toothbrush bristles in water. I put it in boiling water and hold it for 2 to 3 minutes to disinfect it, and so it's got a little bit of charring because of the air, but otherwise, so if you see my bamboo toothbrush, there's a black patch on it, and I'm still using it, but yeah, 8 months and nothing has happened to it, so I'm looking forward to.
Okay. So let me share this very small trick with you, Aparna. Please, Dr. Aparna, don't boil your toothbrush with plastic. Remember, 100 degree is good enough temperature for it to have a lot of leaching. Basically.
Yes, leaching.
Yes. So what all you need to do is take a little bit of baking soda and rub it onto the baking soda, so that the soda has reached almost all parts of over here, or otherwise just sprinkle a little bit of soda on top of it. Take vinegar or our garbage enzyme, eco enzyme, make 1:200 solution, so that it's very mild acid. Dip this toothbrush this way, so that if the katori is like this, if the portion is like this is like this, the effervescence or the reaction between the baking soda as well as the vinegar or the acetic acid or any kind of mild acid, even nimbu will work. Lemon juice is also fine. It will create a lot of effervescence of carbon dioxide, the gas, and it will start bubbling, and it will clean the surface. It will disinfect. One. It will also remove a little bit of plaque that gets developed underneath the, at the base of the bristle. And one more and most important thing, it will give a little bit of brightness to your bristles too.
Okay. All right. Okay. Great. Great. Interesting. So thanks for this advice. I'll not have to burn down my toothbrush.
Yes, please don't boil.
Yeah. Great. So we have a couple more questions. One very important question someone's asked is, her toothbrush went black. I believe that's correlation with the fungus. Turned into black color, but never understood why. But I believe it's some form of sporulation of fungus.
So basically, see, one more thing that you need to remember is, even though this is bamboo toothbrush, it is not just bamboo. It is the surface of it is always itched, and there is a lot of chemical itching that is being done so that it becomes very smooth. That is number one. And second, the bamboo toothbrush that you are using, you need to be very sure that one, it is bamboo and not other wood. If it is any other wood, then you need to look up and understand how to take care of that particular wood. And one last and very important thing is, don't just fall for what is being sold to you. Try, test, and probably there is a very high chance that you will discuss or discover something which is not even known to humankind. Like, this was not known to me that bristles are made of a plastic, and I still feel very, very guilty that I gifted this toothbrush to a few of my friends, thinking that I am a green champion and making them their conscious journey and everything, and then I realized, and I have not told this to them. And one of them is right now online too, so probably I will be getting a call later part of the night tonight,
Yes,
and
sure you will.
Hear some good words.
Sure you will. But yeah, that's
Any other questions?
initial feeling that matters. Like your intention was good, so I think they'll take that into consideration. Hopefully, if your luck is shining.
Please
but
listen to this advice by Dr. Aparna that my intentions were good.
Yeah, so this brings me to the last question. What are the environmental impacts of using organics?
Very, very interesting question. And that is really, really dear to me because, environment should be at the center when you are, thinking anything. And just because this is bamboo product and, this is probably, okay. So just because this is bamboo product and just because this is coming from, India or probably this is just coming from, some part of the world, doesn't mean that I need to order this by being in Australia or by being in New Zealand or by being in, Northern America. You need to go and check out alternatives and substitutes. Like, just by eating avocado. I'll tell you this story of avocado. Like, avocado is very, very good food. Very nice, very nice, very nice, very nice. But do you know how many avocados are grown in India? Avocado is naturally grown in Nilgiri. It is very much possible to grow avocados in that particular weather. But you will be surprised that now avocado is being grown in Maharashtra, in terms of in Gujarat, in anywhere and everywhere. And the best part is, wherever avocado is grown, it's not even locally consumed. It has to look out for the market in the metros because it's in metro that people know that avocado is really good. Second thing is olive oil. Like, why do we need olive oil? Like, I made this soap because I had olive oil in my house and I was not really sure what to do with this because I really did not like the taste of it. So I decided to convert it into a soap. I did not sell this particular soap. It cost a bomb because the olive oil itself was a bomb. But I'm not ready to sell this soaps because I know that it has a very, very high carbon footprint attached to it. So just because something is organic doesn't mean that we need to promote it by ordering it. Probably one thing that you can do is tell the people in that particular vicinity to go and consume it locally as much as possible. But yes, there are certain things which are deemed organic or are termed as organic and are not naturally available everywhere, and they're really good for your health. Go ahead and buy it, but be conscious. Then don't just fall for something which is organic, so go ahead and buy it. No, not like that. Do not do it like that. See to it that it is locally available. Number one. Second, the standards which I spoke about, the Jaivik Bharat, which is the Indian standard. Make sure that you are buying the standard food. Don't get fooled by anything else. There is also a question on the internet that I read, that how do we ensure that the Jaivik Bharat standard is being met and is just not a logo which is put up. Like, you see a lot of logos on a local brand, like Bisleri. I'll take an example of Bisleri. You see a lot of variants of Bisleri. Some say Billeri, some say Bisleri in a different sense, and it all look very same. So how do we ensure that the Jaivik Bharat standard is also not being copied and copy pasted anywhere and everywhere? Important thing is you go to Jaivik Bharat.
It is really important for everyone to I was saying this, that just because something is organic or just because something is labeled as organic doesn't mean that you go ahead and buy it. All you need to do is very, very simple thing. check for yourself, use your capacities to check whatever is available, and then go ahead and buy it. Buy it for your own self. See to it that things are happening in front of your eyes, and talk about it. Because a lot of time, if I hadn't talked about this being available in India, trust me, the 4 friends that I gifted this to would have also not bought it. Till the time I did not know that loofah is something that can be grown at home. I paid 80 rupees for this.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
And this is not even organically certified.
Okay.
Someone told me,
Okay.
a friend of mine who grows this at her farm, and she says that this is the last thing that I would want to sell because there is no buyer, and probably I will have to sell maybe 1 rupee or 2 rupee to the person to take it away free of cost.
Yes.
So I paid
yes.
80 rupees for this.
So I don't want you to feel guilty about it. It was a good experience. But yeah, don't pay another 80
It was-
to buy
it was-
this.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Great. So this was a very, very insightful session. We got a lot of knowledge and a lot of... okay, Balakrishna sir is saying you get it for 10 rupees in Matunga, so we got to attack this place.
Thank you, Bala sir.
Yeah. Maybe we can have some idli sambar over there and then buy this and come back. We use the 70
yes,
rupees
yes,
more
yes.
wisely. Okay, great.
I
Thank
agree.
you so much. Thank you so much, Sunny, for joining and for all this valuable information that you've shared with us. It was really insightful. And thank you everyone for joining in this session. And it was you were a lovely audience. Yeah, we will certainly come to Matunga next. And do stay tuned
Yes.
with us. We have lots happening on our page. So yeah, keep following us. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Just one question that was left from my part was what are the pesticides which are eligible to be used under organic standards, right?
Yeah, we did discuss this during the session. What pesticides are allowed during in organic farming?
No,
We did discuss
I
this.
couldn't. No. I told you that I will download this particular file and
Yes,
tell
and
you what all
share.
pesticides are allowed.
Yes.
Yes. So what
Okay.
I'll do is I'll probably.
We were at the
Okay.
concluding remarks. So,
Yeah. So I'm so
look
sorry.
forward
I'm so sorry. There was no glycerine. It's actually the important material that is used as a control is gelatin. It's not glycerine.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I was referring it as glycerine,
No problem.
but it's
No
gelatin.
problem.
And the allowed things for control pesticides is neem oil is not allowed, but extracts of neem or garlic
Okay.
is completely allowed.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Very interesting.
Malai is allowed. And do you know malai or casein is antimicrobial?
Yes.
Once this live goes as Instagram live on the RUR account, I will add this probable link of this PDF so that people can actually read about it, because there is a lot of it to learn and lot of it to know about. And unless we as a human or as an individual do not talk about it, do not share with our own people, I don't think so that there will be even marketing money spent on it to make a billboard out of it, or make a pamphlet out of it and send out to our home along with the newspaper or on the news channel or something like that, because these are very expensive things which are there.
Okay, great. This was really interesting, and the session went unexpectedly long. So I think
Yes, actually.
we'll probably have to have another round-up session with everybody else, because there was a lot of questions that were asked in this thing. So we've tried to answer all the questions that have come through. But in case you still have any queries left, please feel free to write to us at RUR. You can send us an email at info@rur.co.in, or you can DM us on Instagram. And if you want to listen to more similar topics, then do suggest. We would be happy to arrange for such talks further. All right. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Sunny,
Dr.
for
Aparna.
joining. Thank
It was
you.
lovely,
Thanks a lot.
lovely to have this kind of a dialogue over Instagram, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate your patience. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share my 2 bits on the nylon things on this bamboo toothbrush.
Yeah, yes, it was. It was interesting. It was really interesting because a lot of us happen to realize, okay, I'm using organic. It's nature friendly, but yeah, there is more to what we see. So it's important to
Yes.
understand that aspect. So thank you for showing this path, and I think we all have some takeaways from here. Thank you again. Thanks a lot. I think
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
day
you.
and a good weekend. Happy
You
weekend.
too.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Happy weekend. Happy weekend. Bye bye. How do I end this?